Thank you guys all for joining. We're going to dive into social media. Obviously, the name of this panel is called Winsomely Engaging with Culture. How many of you use TikTok in here? Not very many. Instagram?
Rip.
Way more interesting. I thought for sure it would be way more TikTok. YouTube? Okay, so we got a little bit of everything, and we have everybody on this panel kind of dives into a bunch of different platforms. They use all of them, but I'm not the TikTok expert. I'm going to be asking the questions. We have a lot of people up here today, but I'm going to let everybody kind of introduce themselves, who they are, give a little bit of their bio. Shane, why don't we start with you?
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, I'm Shane Winnings. I'm 34. Long story short, I was in the military as an officer with the 1st Special Forces Group. Left that to become a cop. I worked south of Seattle for 5 years. During that time, I was making posts on social media. I'm not an influencer. I'm just a preacher who happens to preach online. And so that's what I did, and then left that to become a missionary to America. I did that for 3 years, traveling and preaching, and now I run a men's ministry called Promise Keepers.
Mia? Share a little bit about who you are.
I'm Mia Armstrong, and I'm 13 years old.
And Mia has become a force to reckon with within the pro-life movement. I don't know if you guys caught her speech and how spunky she was up there, but we love to see it. Isabel is not solo right now. I just have to share. She is expecting. So we're really excited about that. Isabel, go ahead and give everybody the rundown.
So excited to be back at the Pro-Life Summit this year. If you guys aren't familiar with me, I'm Isabel Brown. I'm an independent content creator, which is basically the fancier way of saying to my parents that I make videos online for a living. It's a little more impressive sounding, I think. I was pre-med in college. I never dreamed that I would be working in media or communications, but God threw my life in a totally different direction in college when I had the chance to be here and intern for the legislative branch and the Trump White House in 2018. Totally fell in love with healthcare policy and did my master's degree down the road at Georgetown from 2018 to 2020. Everything got shut down, and we all spent a whole lot of time on our phones the next few years, so really dove in as a content creator, and everything has just exploded since then. I host a long-form podcast called The Isabel Brown Show. We react to crazy TikTok videos. I go on other people's shows quite a bit, and we just do everything we can to simply tell the truth in whatever way we can every day. I got married last June to the love of my life, and he is so great. Not here, sadly, with us. He's working. And we are expecting our first baby girl born in May, hopefully, depending on due dates. So, thank you.
So Isabel, we'll start with you. You have seen some tremendous growth on social media. I feel like the intro you just gave yourself was pretty humble. You have over 1 million followers on Instagram alone. Combined, I don't even know what you have. It's probably something totally wild. What is the number one way that you have crafted content to create an authentic audience and community?
I think the biggest thing that was a big switching point for us and our strategy over the last few years was transitioning from making content on behalf of a particular issue versus making you the story and the brand, particularly with the draw of TikTok and totally new types of content in the last few years. What young people are really looking for on social media isn't the blank girl or the blank guy anymore, the gun guy, the pro-life guy, the Trump guy. They want to follow you as a holistic individual and all of the things that you're passionate about and that you care about. And so it was a little uncomfortable maybe switching from making videos about something to instead making content that was about something I was passionate about, that I already talked to my husband about every night, or that I was personally invested in, and talking about how that applied to our life and our family and our story. But I think that's really been a powerful way to connect with people and truly build a sense of community through the digital space, rather than just throwing anything at the wall to see if it sticks. God has been so gracious in allowing our community of what we call truth seekers to grow. We grew from about 100,000 followers on Instagram at the beginning of last year to well over 1 million in just over a year, which was absolutely crazy. But I think people are just so hungry to get to know people again and to reconnect with our common shared humanity.
I think you're so right. We need more bold voices, and people are hungry for that because so many people are silenced right now. Shane, you've done law enforcement, content creation. Now you're running a national men's ministry. For you, how have you created an authentic audience, and what even made you want to bring what you do to the social media space as a whole?
Yeah, when I got born again, I spent 25 years in the church, but I lived like everybody else. And then one day the Lord spoke to me and said, "You've never lived for me a day in your life." And like, I was a worship drummer at a mega church. So that was a wake-up call. And when I gave my life to Jesus, I didn't ask him into my heart. I gave him my entire life. And everything changed for me. And so I instantly wanted to start preaching online. So I was on like Facebook Live in 2016 with like 2 viewers, my mom and someone else. And I was just preaching
It's
all the
always mom.
time. Yeah. And I was preaching all the time. And I just kept doing that for years. It was just, no one told me to do it. I just had this burning passion of like, I feel like the scales have been ripped off of my eyes, and now I want everyone else to know. And then when 2020 hit, everyone was on TikTok. I didn't want to go on TikTok, but I felt like the Lord said, "I want you to preach on TikTok." And at the time, and mid through 2020, there weren't that many Christian content creators on there. There were a handful. And so I just said yes. And within like 6 months, it was like over 500,000 followers. I was doing a live preaching every Monday night. And, at one point we had 5,000 people streaming on a Monday night. I was preaching out of my kitchen. I worked as a cop at night, wrestling guys over guns, and then I'd be preaching during the day. So for anyone who thinks you need to leave your job to make content full time, you don't. And so I just knew this stuff needs to get out there. And I think that's the thing you have to ask yourself is like, what are you convicted about? Because I can share something that I read, but if it's a conviction, like there's a different passion behind that. There's a different motivation, and people pick up on that. And so that's what Isabel was saying. That's why people are following her, is because she's not just regurgitating information. Like, she's giving her life to this stuff. We're giving our life to this thing. And that's what people are looking for. They want the truth. And you've got to be bold enough to say what's true.
Absolutely. So, Kara, this is Mia's mom. I know they said that earlier, but standing up for abortion, or against abortion, looks different for everyone. What is a unique take that you and your daughter Mia showcase through social media to argue that abortion is wrong and that all life has inherent value?
Well, we're definitely new to the game. We're doing something wrong because we've been working for years and years, and we only have 26,000 followers. But that's okay, because we've just worked at sharing the inherent value of Mia's life by, using her voice to tell her story and to tell everyone why her life matters. And it was through our tiny little Instagram account that Students for Life reached out and asked if Mia would share her story in her own voice in Times Square last year. So it was the first time that I had to make the very important decision as a mom whether or not I wanted to let her into our journey. I had some trepidation about that, but Kristen told me, if you don't tell her what abortion is, she's in middle school now, someone else is. And so do you want to be the author of that story, or do you want someone else to speak? So we sat down and we had a really, really beautiful heart-to-heart. God told me that it was the right moment to share her story with her. And it was really interesting because she already inherently knew what abortion was. I was trying to gingerly dance around the topic and say, so if there's 10 mamas with babies in their tummies, and the babies have Down syndrome, 8 of the 10 aren't going to make it here, and I was kind of stumbling, and she goes, am I allowed to say what you said? Go ahead. She said, does that mean they're going to be like stabbed with a knife or something? And I said, well, not exactly, but they're not gonna be born. And so it just opened up the door for us to have a conversation. And when she delivered her speech in Times Square, there was a different passion that I saw, because she was embracing the fact that she was fighting for her people. Wow. So yeah, so we're kind of new to the game is my answer, but we're loving it. And I think that every opportunity she's had, and she's had a ton, she's done amazing things with a lot of. You're welcome. But all those opportunities, the reason that I did it was just because you can't be accepted if you're not seen. And so we were just doing the things to be seen. But now we have a tiny little platform, and we're using it for God's glory.
26,000 is not tiny, by the way.
Correct. I was going to say the same thing.
There's not even 26,000 people at this conference, so that's huge.
Thank you.
Mia, we just did a podcast episode upstairs. They will come out later on Speak Out with Christine Jurgen with Mia, and you guys will just absolutely love her. She's a spitfire. So wait for that to come out. But for right now, Mia, if there's one thing that you could tell everyone on social media, what would it be?
I did 1 minute with me on Instagram. I talk about like hard things, people with Down syndrome, and every people that can be inclusion.
Mia, we talked upstairs a little bit. This isn't quite social media related, but it is media related. You were in a music video in Iceland. Can you give us a little bit about what you did there and your experience in Iceland?
Yes, I will. I did a music video in Iceland so we can build a community for all people, not just people with disabilities, all over the world. We need a community, and I met this little, really cute girl in Iceland, one of the last people with Down syndrome in the country of her, Iceland. I did a music video.
Do you want me to explain why we were there? So we just really quick, we got the opportunity to go with high school students to Iceland, and I was able to, and I was able to kind of teach this photography class what was happening in Iceland and the global disappearance of Down syndrome, because Iceland touts the fact that they have proudly eliminated Down syndrome. And so the students wrote a song based on the global disappearance of Down syndrome, and 3 little actresses Mia and Sophia Sanchez, her friend, met one of the last little girls in Iceland that has Down syndrome. They did a music video where they sat and had a tea party in front of a waterfall in Iceland, and slowly they disappeared during the music video. So it was just a way to kind of teach the students about what was happening internationally.
And Mia, what is your favorite type of content to help your mom make on social media?
Instagram, because I do 1 minute with Mia's. My mom asked me questions about Earth or life.
Yeah, and you answer the questions, right? Yeah. So 1 minute with Mia is our little segment that we do, and a book publisher reached out as a result, and they're doing a book where Mia's going to be highlighted in the book as one of 7 people, like different celebrities, I guess, that have disabilities. And so, that was all out of our little 1 minute with Mia segments that came up, and it's coming out next year.
Isabel, do you have any advice for those who are watching, some who are thinking, I want to start making content, I want to do it on TikTok alone, or, sometimes you can use the same content on multiple pieces of platform, but do you have any specific, like, quick tidbits for each type of platform? Like, hey, on TikTok, this is what works really well. Instagram, this is what works really well. Something along those lines.
Ooh, I could teach like a PhD level seminar on this. So hard to get it into one answer. But you're right. There is a ton of crossover right now in content that pretty much everything works across all platforms at the moment, which is a very unique time. It's a time to capitalize on becoming a content creator, because you used to have multiple different strategies for every single platform. Generally speaking, I'm seeing a really interesting trend towards longer videos versus really short form content, which I'm seeing a lot of nodding heads. It used to be the general rule of thumb that older people than us on the news would yell at me about all the time this last year, that Gen Z's average attention span is only 7 seconds. And after that, they hate listening to anything. And that silly generation that's ruining our country just doesn't have any care in the world about what's going on. To the opposite, actually, to the contrary, we're really craving longer conversations and more deep, meaningful content that is asking the harder questions about what's going on in our world and looking for real solutions. We have a couple videos to play for you guys, actually, for all of us up here, but I decided to really lean into that related to abortion before the 2024 election, because I was so incredibly frustrated as a woman that, to put this bluntly, they just thought women were that stupid going into the 2024 election, that they could come up with any outrageous lie about being criminalized for seeking miscarriage care, or that you were going to get pulled over at the border of your state if you wanted to go get birth control pills, or really crazy sensationalized videos. And just after the 2024 presidential debate between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, I became incredibly enraged over one claim in particular that the vice president at the time said, nowhere in America is anyone carrying a pregnancy to term and then seeking an abortion. Of course, there was no fact check on this. We have to be the media and the fact checkers these days. So we made a very long video that by all intents and purposes should not have done well. It broke all the rules of length and all of the content, but has millions upon millions of views across social media. I was about 10 weeks pregnant at the time, but I sensationalized a bit and said I was 35 weeks pregnant. And we called up abortion clinics in Colorado, one here in Washington, D.C., and one in Maryland to see if we could still get an abortion. I think we have that to play for you guys.
Good morning, Dr. Lopez. How can I help you?
Hi there. I just started my third trimester, but found out that my child is diagnosed with Down syndrome. I saw on your website that you might offer late-term abortion services and just wanted to see what that looks like.
Sure. Have you had a recent ultrasound?
I did a few weeks ago, yeah.
We do require for your ultrasound to be sent over.
Okay, and even though I just started my 30th week, that's not too late in Colorado to get something done?
There are no legal restrictions in Colorado.
And is it kind of common right now for women to be going through this? I feel like I'm the only person in the world asking these questions, so just wanted to see if this is something that you guys regularly do.
Yes.
Totally normal at 30 weeks.
Hi, this is the... How may I help you?
Hi there. Say I'm about 30 weeks pregnant right now, and was planning on carrying to term, but just got a pretty devastating diagnosis that my fetus has been diagnosed with Down syndrome. So I'm just calling to see, I saw on your website you do offer some late abortion services starting in the third trimester, and just wanted to explore what those options might look like.
Yeah, I'm so sorry to hear that. I'm definitely happy to give you some information about our services and appointment availability.
Okay. Really the only reason that I would even be considering this is because of the new diagnosis, which is just a lot to wrap my head around. So I guess I just want to make sure that that's a valid reason to seek something like this out in Washington, D.C., and generally what that process might look like.
Absolutely. So I do see we have a couple of appointments available potentially as early as tomorrow if you'd be interested, as well as next week. In general, it would be a 3-day process. The first day you would meet with your care team, which includes a doula. We call them a patient care guide. You would also meet with your nurse and your provider, and they would go into a lot more detail about what the appointment process looks like, answer any questions that you might have, and review your medical history again.
Okay.
The second day, you would receive something called dilators to help your cervix dilate. They're small, skinny rods that kind of look like a matchstick, but that would be the process for the second day. And then on the third day, we would have the actual procedure happen. So it would be a 3-day process.
Not safe,
And you
obviously.
would be staying at the hotel.
And they put you up in a
between your,
hotel here in
appointment
D.C.
days.
to do this. And my other earlier question, is this something that you guys do pretty regularly? This is like a normal procedure that's often practiced?
Yeah, so we do specialize in all trimester care, and we do provide care up to 31 weeks and 6 days for people who have not had a C-section previously. Our providers are very highly trained, so we do offer this care.
31 weeks and 6 days. Oh my gosh. This is awful.
Good morning. Thank you for calling. How may I help you?
Hi there. Say, I just started the third trimester of my pregnancy, but things kind of took a total left turn and ended up having a fetal diagnosis of Down syndrome this last week. So just calling to see if you have any availability or what the process might look like for a third trimester abortion.
Okay. Do you know exactly how many weeks you are?
Yeah, I'm 30 weeks pregnant right now.
We do all up until 35 on a case-by-case situation. It is legal in Maryland, but yes, the ultimate deciding factor is the doctor.
35 weeks in Bethesda, Maryland. So that video was obviously very hard for me to make. I hung up the phone. I'm crying right now because I'm very hormonal, but hung up the phone and cried for like an hour, but it was so powerful that all I had to do was pick up the phone and call and ask. And I made up a fake name for one of them, and they wanted a whole patient intake thing. But the number of comments of people on TikTok, especially saying I made this up, or my friends were on the other end of the line, or clearly this was just insane anti-woman propaganda. But you heard that video for yourself. The only thing I told these providers was that my theoretical situation, which wasn't actually real. I was pregnant. My baby does not have a Down syndrome diagnosis, but in no way, shape, or form does that impact their humanity, as we know from courageous people like Mia. And every one of them said, I'm so sorry, that's so terrible, we're gonna get you in tomorrow, basically, all the way up through essentially 35 weeks. And it was so devastating to hear that literally the next morning after the Vice President of the United States said nowhere in America is that happening. So creating content and going out of your way to tell the truth doesn't have to look like rocket science or reinventing the wheel or trying to be an expert on anything. Sometimes it's literally just as simple as picking up the phone and calling and hitting record and hitting post, because you never know whose life you're going to impact on the other end of that.
I don't know if you guys are watching this interaction between Mia as Isabel was talking with her mom. It's just making me emotional too. But so forgive the tears and the shaky voice. But something with Isabel's video that I do want to highlight really quickly for you, especially all of you who want to be content creators or just share your beliefs online and social media. It doesn't have to be something that's really overproduced. You don't even have to have a really professional camera. You know, as you saw, she just filmed herself calling someone, and now she did have a professional camera. But you can do it on your phone. You can do this. It doesn't you don't have to look at content creators and say, well, I don't have a studio, or I don't have a microphone, I don't have all of these, which I think is really important to highlight. Shane,
Can I speak to that too?
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, when I blew up in 2020, it wasn't because I had all the nice stuff. Like I said, I was a cop, and so I would make a lot of my videos in between calls. So I did the green screen, and if you look at like my old 2020 videos, I'm like a floating head in the corner, because I don't want you to see, you know, the rifle behind me and my uniform on. And so people have no idea how many videos I had to redo because like a call came out, you know, shooting, and I'm like, oh crap, my video just got ruined. But the point is, I just would point my camera at my face and just say what needed to be said. And, you know, even the video that they've got for me, millions of views. And I posted everything. I don't know if it's lazy or genius, but I posted everything to Instagram, to Facebook, and to YouTube from TikTok. And I grew all of my platforms. So, you know, this one happened to blow up on TikTok and YouTube, and it's 90 seconds, but this is like journalism, basically. You're reacting, and these react videos are super popular now, and we like the long-form content because we're giving more. But in just 90 seconds or whatever it is, you'll see, I mean, this is what we need to be doing, because people say, oh, this stuff isn't happening. People are not excited to get an abortion. Well, we'll see my video, and you'll see that that's actually not the case.
Yeah, recycling content is huge, but we'll dive into your video and then maybe give the audience a couple of tips and good strategies for YouTube.
Totally.
This woman murders a baby on live television and brags that it's her third abortion. Watch this.
They are incredibly safe, safer than Viagra or Tylenol.
Except that it kills a baby.
And I want to show you how easy it is and safe it is by taking it myself.
You're taking it. You're not pregnant, are you?
I would say that this is going to end a pregnancy. This would be my third abortion.
This is what we're up against now. It's not just pro-choice people, which isn't any better because you're saying, well, I wouldn't murder a baby, but I'm okay if someone else does. That's weak. This is someone who is pro-murdering a baby and needs dopamine so bad that they would do it live on national TV. Listen, we need Jesus Christ. You need to be using your voice and speaking out for the unborn who can't speak themselves.
Yeah, I mean, pretty easy. I saw a shocking clip, so I reacted to it. And I made my face huge on part of it because I didn't know if they were going to like take it down because of copyright or something like that. So that's one tip, you know. If you alter a video enough that it doesn't look enough like the original, then they can't take it down. So when I put my head in the middle of the video, they're going to have a hard time removing it. But just, you got something to add on that?
Yeah, I was also just going to say that those types of content do really, really, really well. Typically on short form reactions type videos, you don't want to be in a multi-million-dollar media studio. You're usually sitting in the passenger seat of your car in the driveway or in your dorm room or putting your makeup on in the bathroom, getting ready in the morning. That sense of authenticity, or sitting in Shane's living room making that video, people are really connecting with because they're understanding real people are moved by these stories just as much as Fox News or CNN or MSNBC. In fact, if anything, I think the big media companies are at a disadvantage now because it's real people talking about this.
Yeah, I did not think that would do 7 million views on YouTube, you know. And if you're wondering how much money I made from that, it was like 26 cents. So don't leave your day job. Don't leave your day job to speak truth. Just do it right where you're at. And, you know, if you saw my video, to Isabel's point, the 7-second thing, really that is crafting what you're trying to say. In the military, we'd say bottom line up front, you know, bluff. We'd put it at the top of an email. If it's going to be a too long, didn't read type of email, bottom line up front right away. What is this about? So my video, I would use these shocking, not even exaggerated. I mean, she is murdering a baby. That's what it is. But I would use shocking, grabbing words, and my first sentence has got to be something that makes you go, I got to see this. And then if you like what you hear and see, you know, I did a YouTube live stream 2 weeks ago for 3 hours, and it only grew the longer I went to thousands of people who are live streaming. If you have good content and you can present it in, you know, an understandable fashion and you can articulate just a little bit, people will listen. And so this kind of stuff is easy. You know, you look at how many of you know James O'Keefe? You've seen that. The undercover journalism, right? Well, you don't always have to be undercover. A lot of times it's just recycling stuff like that. I saw that on the news, but I thought, you know what? I have 1 million something followers across different platforms. Maybe they haven't seen this yet. And I want people to see what's happening because enough people are saying it doesn't happen. So I think that can discourage people. You know, have you ever felt this where you're like, I don't want to comment on that. Everybody else already has.
All the time.
But then you do, and it like blows up. And people are like, man, I didn't even know about this.
Yeah, I think it's also an intimidating thing sometimes when you're sitting in a crowd like this and you're thinking, oh my gosh, I would love to have a blue check mark or 8 million followers and get 100 million views on a video. That sounds like my dream. But I'm just me. I have no idea where to start. I have 0 followers. I have a private account. I post pictures at my college football games on the weekend. Like, how do I even do that? And so I think we just really want to encourage you guys this weekend. I'm a big believer that anyone can and should be a content creator in 2025 and beyond because, as eloquently stated by Elon Musk, we are the media now, right? And we have an opportunity and an obligation to tell the truth when the most powerful institutions in our society and world are propagandizing us with lies and talking points every day, and yet we have the capacity to see far more eyes on that content than the propaganda machines ever will. So I started posting on Instagram right out of college graduation in 2019 to an audience of like 500 people. I turned my Instagram public and I just started posting. And there is no secret formula. There is no magic ingredient. There is no blueprint to immediate success on social media. It's just the willingness to be consistent, to keep showing up, to try different things, and to not copy anybody else. You don't want to be the next Christine Jurgen or the next Shane Winnings or the next Isabel Brown. You're you, and you have something unique and powerful to say for a reason. If you just keep putting yourself out there, the rule of algorithms is that eventually it will grow and it will reach people. And who knows, in a couple years, you might be sitting up here telling someone about your video with 7 million views on YouTube.
Right. Yeah. Can I add to that?
Go ahead, real quick.
TikTok blew up a little bit faster, especially in 2020. Now I'm like, I got to 800,000 on TikTok and then they kicked me off. So whatever, like easy come, easy go.
I'll put in a good word for you.
Yeah. I don't want back on. But on YouTube, I posted for a year. I posted 3 videos a day for a year, morning, noon, and night for a year. Nothing happened. I'm talking about my analytics were like flatlined. And then all of a sudden I logged in one day and I had like 10,000 subscribers. I was like, what the heck is going on? And like 9 of my videos from 10 months ago had started going viral. All of a sudden, all of these videos are going viral. And then when one goes viral, the next one. And so now I'm up to almost 500,000 on YouTube. And I've kind of transitioned to more long form. But I say that to say, like, just keep plowing. I felt like the Lord told me, YouTube's where you're going to want to be. And that has been the most rewarding platform because, you know, 800,000 on TikTok is like 8,000 on Instagram. It's not real for whatever reason. I'm not impressed by that. But if you got 100K, if you have 50K on YouTube, those YouTubers are like loyal. I mean, they'll like track you down at the airport, like you're that YouTuber guy, and you find out what kind of influence you have. You know, if you want to be an influencer, well, you have to be able to influence people So having followers and a blue check mark doesn't mean anything if you can't get people to do something. And so I just say that to say, like, don't chase the views, the likes, any of that stuff. It doesn't mean anything. I've got, almost 750 million views on all social media in 4 years, and that doesn't pay my mortgage. Like, I don't care about that. I care that almost 750 million people have heard what I believe God's put on my heart. And so I think the bravest thing you can do in 2025 is say what needs to be said. It's the bravest thing you could do.
Absolutely. Kara, Mia mentioned earlier that Instagram is her favorite. She likes making reels with you. We have a video to watch, correct? So let's watch that video and then
I just tee it up real quick and just say
go ahead.
that we are only a little bit. Okay. We are the people that Isabel's talking about, that anyone can create content. As a special needs parent, like, I feel like I look like I'm shot out of a cannon half the time because I'm like pulled in so many different directions. We shot this video in the backseat of an Uber on our way to film for, Mia was on a Visit California commercial where we were having to hit six major California landmarks in like a couple of weeks, and just a grueling filming schedule. And so, but I realized it was like a big Down syndrome day that we needed to post something. So she's leaning back in the back seat of the car, and she's going to mention something about being stretchy. One thing we try to do is pull in like little facts about Down syndrome, and one that you may not know is that people have hypotonia that have Down syndrome. So Mia's extremely flexible, and as are many people with Down syndrome. So she's going to make mention of being stretchy, and that's what she means. But we're trying to educate in a fun way.
Hi guys, it's Down Syndrome Awareness Month. It's October. Sometimes with Down syndrome, you have a heart problem and low muscle tone. I know that's hard, but you'll get through this. You're smart and you're stretchy.
That's right. Never hurts to be smart and stretchy.
Actually, flexible.
So tell us a little bit about how you use Instagram as a platform to network and make a community and get the word out about Down syndrome and obviously the life issue.
Yeah, it's a great tool for sharing information within our own community, but the hope is that we will draw in, followers that are not in our community and normalize Mia's diagnosis. The aversion to DEI is understood, but in our case, like I said before, you can't be included if you're not seen. And so historically, people with Down syndrome have never been a part of, major television shows. I mean, there are a few exceptions to the rule, but you typically didn't see them in big box commercials, TV shows, and movies. And so as we break through that barrier, visibility becomes more important. And so normalizing Down syndrome and allowing people to understand that Mia is just a person. This is just one small part of who she is. And like she said this morning, it doesn't define her. We're always trying to get hints of that by using her own voice.
Okay, so we want to get to some questions for you guys. We have about 12 minutes left, so this one's going to be a really rapid fire question, maybe under a minute. Each of you can answer. What is one tactical way to create high engagement with your audience online? Isabel, go.
Oh my goodness. This is putting me on the spot for less than 1 minute.
You got this.
Tactical way to make high engaging content. I think just to be authentically yourself. The biggest mistakes I see people make on social media are trying to be just like somebody else, trying to sound like somebody that you are not, trying to read off of a script and put way too much preparation into everything. If you can just fire what you are naturally feeling about something off the cuff, maybe not in one take, believe it or not, we take a lot of takes sometimes. You should see how many videos I'm talking, and I go, bleh, I can't believe I just said that. That doesn't make it on the internet, but we do that every day. Just be you and be honest and be authentic, like you're sitting there having coffee talking to a friend. If you can package that into an Instagram reel or a TikTok video or a YouTube short, people absolutely love that content and they gravitate towards it.
Kara, tactical way to create high engagement.
Yeah, I hate to mirror what she said because it sounds like I don't have my own ideas and I'm not very savvy with social media because I'm of a different generation. Mia said, just make it up. But no, the one of the best videos that we ever did in terms of likes or views was me shopping with Mia at Target. And Mia has a ton of a ton of opinions about clothes. And so, like, you have these big dreams. Like, I was having a daughter, and I'm going to be shopping with her around Christmas time, and I'm going to dress her up in these cute outfits. And please, no, she hates all of them. And so we were in Target, and I was suggesting outfits, and she had something to say about each one. Like, do you really want me to look like a cowgirl? And then finally, well, those were your words. But then finally, at the very end, I suggested this pair of jeans, and she's like, do I look like a jeans girl? And so, yeah, jeans kind of girl. So just like being authentic to who she is, and proudly shouting like her sensory sensitivity, all the things that make her unique. And it just happened in an aisle of Target. So authenticity is key.
Yeah, if I was to add to that, I would say make engageable content. I mean, don't just talk at people. When I made a video about Gavin Newsom and his abortion thing that he was trying to pass, I showed an ultrasound of my son moving around, and I asked questions. A lot of times I'm asking questions when I'm making videos to promote response in the chat. And so I'd be like, Gavin Newsom says I should be able to murder my son right here. Look, he's moving around. He's got fingers, toes, he's got eyes, he's got organs. What do you guys think? Should I be able to kill my son at this age? And the comments, they'll just do their job. You don't have to be like, amen, Shane, to try to promote your engagement. Like, we know what you're doing. It's fine. I've done it too. But when you actually make engageable content, people will engage. It's a wild idea.
But also be that friend who says amen.
Yes.
And help
Hype your
support
friends
Support your friends' post. My buddies tell me, bro, I like all your stuff. I don't even watch it. And I'm like, you are a true friend.
We all joke about our moms being like the first people to watch our content, but there is a lot of truth to that. If you know somebody who's trying to do this, support them, share their videos, comment on stuff, tell them that they're doing a great job.
100%. Okay, so I think we have about 9 minutes for questions. If you guys want to, do we have a microphone, an extra microphone, or I can come down with the microphone? Does you guys want to come down and like form a line and see what we can fit in 9 minutes?
We'll be quick. We can do it.
We started late. Maybe we can go over.
Yeah, it'll be fine.
Hi.
But maybe we target it to one specific person so we can just kind of.
Oh, sure. What are y'all's takes on the TikTok ban?
Oh, Shane, you go first. I'll try to give a rapid fire. If I go first, I'll go too long.
There's a lot of other social medias out there, so, I mean, I don't know. I don't really care. Sorry.
All right, I'm going to try not to speak for like 20 minutes on this, but I've done like 8 podcast episodes about this in the 6 months since this has been a national conversation. It's a scam. It's not really about national security. The bill has nothing to do with national security. It's a very specific violation of your constitutional First Amendment rights, and I will die on that hill. But go listen to a podcast episode about it because we don't have enough time.
Okay, so my question is specific to Isabel. I really would love to be on your podcast and share my way to defeat abortion biblically. The 4 principles are: we need to have people are based, their value is based on ability, not based on ability, but based on status. We need to have we can't identify opinions as truth. Truth is permanent, timeless, and exclusive. It does not allow for opposites to be true at the same time.
Do you have an actual question?
Send them to me. I read my Instagram DMs every single day, even the hidden requests.
Okay.
So if you send them to me, would love to connect with you.
Definitely.
For sure.
All right, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Hi, in terms of planning your social media content, what does planning look like for you? Is it just kind of spontaneous, or do you like plan for the week, the next week, or the next month? What does that look like?
I'm very spontaneous. Like, if you see a video of mine, I usually just thought of it 10 seconds before I turn the camera on. So, yeah, I'm pretty spontaneous.
A lot of people would say the opposite, that they do plan ahead with their content. They have a specific calendar, and they pre-record months in advance. I usually record that day, the 3 videos that we're posting that day, and typically it's just to have relevance for the subject itself and not get too ahead of ourselves.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you so much for your talk. Really encouraging to hear how we can get our message out there on social media. My question is, how do you deal with some of the negative sides of social media, like their hate comments or maybe burnout from always being on camera? I'd like that perspective too.
If someone's mad at you, it's a reflection of their heart position, not your worth or identity. So you shouldn't be on social media if you don't know who you are, because you'll get eaten alive, right? If you're yelling at me, you're showing me what's on the inside. And if I'm a true Christian, I should hurt for you, not because of you.
Mia, do you want to add to that?
Do you have something to add? Do you want to say anything? Yeah, no, we've been super, super fortunate. We actually, for whatever reason, knock on wood and glory to God, don't get a ton of trolls, but we watch members of our community get trolled really hard and horrific things said to them. And there's a couple of different approaches that we see. Like some accounts just call every single one out, and some accounts just erase them, or some accounts just ignore them. But we've been really fortunate; we don't get trolled all that much.
I used to get a lot more backlash and hate in person, actually, when I was a student activist. So I have such a huge heart for what you guys are going through, because honestly, it's so much worse when it's real and it's people you sit next to in class or you're in student government with. Of course, I get a whole lot of backlash just statistically based on how many people are watching my content, but it is a very small minority. But yeah, it's hard when you read a comment. Like I saw one this morning, I hope you have a miscarriage, which I hope that person has a lovely day and reconsiders some life choices, to be honest with you. But ultimately, what we do up here every day is we just try to tell people the truth. And I am a huge believer that truth has a name, and that name is Christ. And we've often forgotten in modern history that as Christians in particular, it's not supposed to be sunshine and rainbows all the time. We are actually guaranteed by Christ himself to have severe hatred and severe persecution and backlash in this world that is rejecting that very concept of truth. So frankly, I wear it like a badge of honor when someone calls me Hitler Youth Barbie or whatever they decide to label me. That was a common one on my college campus, because clearly it speaks to the fact that I'm walking towards heaven and eternal life and not running into the arms of this world.
Thank you.
Also, you can bless and block. Don't be afraid to use
Bless and block. Yeah, that's a good one.
Thank you so much.
First off, just thank you to all of you guys. It's been so encouraging, specifically to Isabel. The way that you speak about Gen Z and uplift Gen Z, I think is kind of differs from a lot of people in this area, like in pro-life activism. So what gave you such a passion for specifically Gen Z, and what is one thing maybe in this next year that you think Gen Z should really attack at and fight for?
Great question. I basically just decided to hit the end of my rope about a year and a half ago as somewhat of our designated spokesperson as a generation, going on the news over and over and over again, being interviewed by people my parents' age or my grandparents' age, constantly being told that it was our generation destroying America. When I knew that wasn't true. I travel to thousands of high school and college campuses. I interact with quite literally tens of millions of you guys every single month all over the world. And in reality, someone else built this world strategically, and we are the ones growing up in it, and yet we're receiving all of the blame and have become the boogeyman for postmodern leftism and all of the cultural issues that we're dealing with. So I just got really fed up, to be honest with you, and I've never been one to sit down and shut up when injustice is happening. So decided to write a book about it and make the case for how our generation was going to be that saves America, ultimately. That book called Gen Z, or The End of the Alphabet, How Gen Z Can Save America, came out in March, and I was literally laughed off set at Fox News, at Newsmax, at all of the radio stations that we did interviews on across the country, because no one believed that would happen. Well, fast forward to November 2024, the majority of young men voted for Donald Trump. Young women swung 11 points from the Democrat Party to the Republican Party this last election cycle. 6 in 10 of us, of our generation, and we're pulling in some millennials there, say human rights begin in the womb, and almost 70% of us support legal restrictions on abortion. And I could keep going with endless statistics really there, but we are embracing traditionalism and truth and conservatism in the real sense of what it means to conserve something again. And I think there's a doomsday attitude from every generation, if you look back through all of human history, to blame the people who come after you for your shortcomings. Sadly, it falls on us to pick up the torch and bring freedom forward for the next generation, but I see nothing but optimism for Gen Z, and I hope we continue that legacy.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
This is for Mia, but I'm just curious how you manage school with being a content creator and an actress and an activist. That's a crazy schedule. I'm impressed.
Thank you.
She wants me to answer it for her. So we try to keep a good work-life balance, and to be totally honest with you, we were pretty smooth sailing all the way through elementary school. Mia's always been fully included with an instructional aide because inclusion is really important to us. We realize that there's a place for some individuals that need to be in self-contained classrooms, but for the most part, I don't think that containing people that can sit beside typical peers and learners is good for anybody. And I think that Mia's peers learn just as much from her as she does from them. But she does have a pretty busy schedule. We've slowed down on some of the acting and things, but she actually gets performing arts credit anytime she's on set, and she works with a set teacher so that she doesn't get behind academically. But she started 7th grade this year, and it's been a really, really challenging year. And I'd say the one way that we find it's the most challenging is that friendships tend to fall off at this age because interests are a little bit divergent. And so Mia's involved in an organization called Best Buddies, founded by Anthony Shriver, that fosters friendships among peers. And so we try to find unique ways to maintain friendships and balance our life with work.
Cool. Thank you.
Thanks for the question.
Okay, I think we're close to out of time, but I'll let you ask. We'll do one last question real quick.
Yeah, this is for my daughter who's in the hotel room up sick. She's 17 and she loves all of you. I'm not on the internet that much, but she knows all of you. But she just said, ask them about because she's new to this, when people come and say to her, what about if you're raped? Or what if there's like another issue? It's like, how could you defend that if somebody was raped or something?
That's probably the most common comment we get in response to pro-life content, especially with short-form Instagram Reels and TikToks. I have found that there are really two really effective ways to respond to that. The first being concede to their point for a second and say, okay, let's assume that we just forget about that. I'll give you that. Now what? That's less than 1% of all abortions that happen every single year, and we're talking about over 1 million children in the United States alone that are still killed every single year. Are you okay with outlawing those abortions? And typically the answer is always no, which prompts a larger conversation, at which point you can switch to the second gear of the opportunity there to say, really, your circumstances of conception never determine your worth. And if you look at someone, you'll never be able to tell how they were conceived or where their parents came from. They're just a human being, and they're worthy of the same rights and dignity as you are. So sometimes it's convenient debate-wise to concede for half a second and then make them realize their point doesn't actually hold any merit.
Yeah, and you also, you should say, okay, the woman who was raped was abused. She was a victim, and now you want to empower her to abuse and victimize an innocent little baby. So I always go back to, is it a human or is it not?
Mm-hmm.
I don't care about the circumstances. Is it a human in the womb or is it not?
Right.
Because if it is a human, then there is nothing that justifies ending that human's life. Nothing. And I just always take it back to that. And you will get people now who say, I don't care what it is, I want it dead. And at least now I know where you stand.
Yeah.
But when people try to dance around, I don't let people dance around like that. I was a cop for 5 years. You're not gonna do that. My son's in trouble when he gets
I've also
older.
found on this issue in particular, we often go right into the facts don't care about your feelings approach, which has been incredibly effective in changing people's minds on a whole host of policy issues and worked really well for millennials, I think. From a Gen Z perspective, we are a very, very feelings-oriented generation for a variety of reasons. I think that's just how we were raised in our culture. It helps you can push one button on your phone and call anyone on the other side of the globe. So we're very interconnected, and that feelings aspect matters. God gave us feelings for a reason. It's how we connect our shared humanity. So I really think it's empowering, especially to women who are screaming about rape and incest, or the proverbial story of the 10-year-old who was raped by her dad, and we have to talk about this specific made-up story. If, in fact, she has received so much trauma in her life, the very last thing we should ever want for her is to add more trauma to her life. Virtually every study on mental health for long-term aspects of women who have chosen abortion shows that you are 6 times more likely to commit suicide later on in your life. We know many, many statistics about abortion regret and substance abuse and anxiety and depression. Not to mention, abortion is life-endangering, whether it's chemical abortion or surgical abortion, for the mom, too, every single time. So if we've seen this beautiful young woman put through so much trauma in her life, if we truly feel for her and have compassion for her, why would we ever want to add more trauma? That's a very effective way to bring people into the conversation.
Yeah, I can add one last thing to put a bow on it. To Isabel's point, it made me think of this. if the facts don't work and you want to appeal to someone's reasoning, you say, well, do you care about the woman? Well, yeah, I care about the woman. That's why I want. Okay, if statistics show that a woman, and I use this for trans stuff, I use this for anything, if you encourage them in this pattern, statistically, they have a higher probability of anxiety, depression, suicide, addiction, whatever. Statistically, that's void of religion or faith or anything else. Statistically, if you say you should go get an abortion or you should become trans or whatever it is, her life is going to be worse. So if you truly care about her, would you promote her to go down that road, or would you try to steer her to a statistically better life? And if they can't reason with that, then there's another motive, and you get into a cycle. But I think appealing to that and just saying, look, if you really care for her, you'll do what's statistically better for her, which is for her to have the child.
Let's give a round of applause to Isabel, Mia, and Shane.